Today, we're talking to Southwest pilot and Warriors with Wings founder, Ryan Melendez, a pilot who turned one of the hardest seasons of his life into a mission that's helped hundreds of kids experience the freedom of flight.
As soon as we got in the air, he couldn't stop smiling and laughing and got on the ground and told me I want to become a pilot.
He's raised over $500,000 this year.
I asked him what's the most anyone's ever raised, and they said $400,000. So I was like, I'm going to set my goal at $500,000. To date, we've raised $500,000.
Competes in national STOL events.
I wanted to have as many outlets to kind of raising awareness to Warriors with Wings as I could.
Builds his own panels and still finds time to fly professionally.
The only reason why I do the big airline flying is to pay for the little airplane flying.
If you've ever wondered how to start a nonprofit, grow your career in aviation, or just add more purpose to your flying, this episode is for you. 3, 2, 1, clap. Oh, that one was good. Well, Ryan, welcome to Between Two Wings. Welcome to Austin.
Thank you.
We're going to cover your whole aviation past, history, present today. But I want to get, what was your first taste of aviation?
So my very first taste of aviation, my dad actually used to have a 182. And so they used to fly around. I was maybe a couple of weeks old the first time I went up in an airplane. He ended up selling the airplane in 2000, but ever since then, I've just had a love for aviation.
And then obviously, jumping forward, aviation's played a huge role in your life. So what was the thing that brought that back?
I would say the biggest thing that, kind of got me to where I am today was in 2015, I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I was misdiagnosed several times leading up to that point and ended up going to the hospital with septic shock. The doctors told my parents that they weren't sure if I was going to make it through the night. And I remember like there being 14 or 15 doctors and nurses just surrounding me, trying to keep me alive. And so then I spent the next 3 days in the pediatric intensive care unit. And it was then when I told my dad, turned to him and said, I would like to learn how to fly. And so he drove down to Montgomery Airport, which was 2 miles down the road in San Diego from the Children's Hospital, and got me a logbook and a PHAC. And from there, just, started learning little things in and outs of flying, and took my first lesson 2 months after I was diagnosed.
Wow. And was there something in specific that when you were, in that moment, you wanted to learn to fly again? Was that just like this is on my bucket list thing, or?
Looking back, I don't know what it was in that moment that kind of spurred me to tell him I want to learn how to fly. I mean, obviously there was a lot going on, and I think it was just something that was deep down in my heart I knew I wanted to do, and kind of facing the possibility of death at that moment was the only thing I could think of that would bring me joy.
Wow. And then when you went and had that first flying lesson, was that kind of the start of, a different journey, a different perspective you had when going through treatment?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, leading up to that point in my life, it was my senior year of high school. Was someone who wanted to go on like a 4-year college and always had good grades. And then when I got sick, basically had to do the bare minimum just to graduate. I lost like my spot in the top 10 of my class, and my life was pretty much turned upside down. So I didn't know what was going to happen, and it ended up being aviation that kind of gave me a clear pathway moving forward and something to kind of focus on throughout treatment. And didn't know at the time, but now it's what I do every day. So it's been a blessing in disguise.
That's amazing. I was kind of expecting a different answer on I grew up around aviation, whole life was flying, but it's pretty incredible that in that moment, like aviation was what you saw as like a path forward.
Yeah.
And was there like a specific moment during your training where that either became clear or like it's just very memorable?
When I was going through treatment, I would take a couple lessons in like a 172, but because I had to do 3.5 years of chemotherapy, everyone told me don't go get your medical, which meant I couldn't solo for basically 3 years. So there wasn't as much excitement, at that time to fly. But then I learned about a sport license, which you just need a valid driver's license pretty much to certify as your medical. So I had that. And my dad was like, you could probably find an airplane for like less than 20 grand to buy. Like,
for sure.
So I started Googling airplanes for less than $20,000 and saw this Aranca Chief. I was like, that thing looks pretty cool. It's a tail dragger. I didn't know any better or any different between tail draggers and nose wheel airplanes. So said, you know what, this is what I can buy. This is my pathway forward to continue to fly into solo. So bought this little Chief that was out in Florida, and 80-year-old Bob ferried it back for me. And the first time I got up in that airplane, I mean, I instantly fell in love with vintage aircraft and tailwheel. And I would say that's definitely the moment that kind of inspired me to continue with my aviation journey, from it just being something to focus on while I was going through treatment to what I wanted to do as a career.
We're going to talk about your aircraft plenty today, but I do want to kind of understand from your experience going through treatment, beyond just taking flight lessons, was it the ground school? Was it teaching yourself? Were there things about aviation that kind of help keep you anchored through that treatment process?
I would say above ground school and training, I think it's just the people in aviation that kind of kept me anchored. With any big thing you go through in life, support's obviously a really big factor to being able to, be successful in what you're trying to do or get through. So just having all those people around the airport reach out to me and help me in some way or the other, whether it's help me fix my airplane or teach me something I didn't know. I would just say the general aviation community is what kind of kept me anchored and moving forward with my journey.
And is that airport that you fly out of, is there a pretty big community there?
Very much so, yeah. So, I mean, every Sunday we have our Sunday services where we all hang out and we watch airplanes land and just tell stories. I'm the youngest by 60 years.
Right.
All my friends are 70 years old, but they welcome me with open arms, and they're the best people to learn from because they've got the most experience.
So you're going through training, and you said Bob is your kind of main CFI mentor through this process. After you got your sport license, are you just flying everywhere imaginable?
As soon as he signed me off, I mean, I was gone. My airplane only went 80 miles per hour, but
so you're going everywhere at a slow pace.
Everywhere at a slow pace, which is great. I mean, you're building time, so I mean, it's okay to go slow. But I flew that thing, out to Oshkosh with a sport license, up to Seattle, all over the country, basically, just putzing around, watching cars fly by me. And
that's awesome.
But it was, it's the ultimate freedom. So it was a great opportunity to be able to get my sport license, and I'm very grateful for it.
Just to go through your journey again, you get diagnosed at 17.
Yep.
You take, flight lessons, you get your sport license as you're going through chemotherapy for how long did you say?
3.5 years.
Yeah. So through that process, beyond aviation, were there other things that kind of help keep you anchored and moved you through that process?
Yeah. So, obviously, like I said, support, family, friends is definitely the biggest thing. And just trying to keep a positive mindset. When I first went in, I had to spend a month in the hospital, and I remember the first week just kind of thinking, why me? What did I do to deserve this? And just being, not at the brightest moments of my life. And then being in the children's hospital, I would see these 5-6-year-old kids running down the hallways with smiles on their face. And I thought, you know what? If they can go through the same thing I'm going through and smile about it, then who am I to, be in this negative mindset? So from that moment forward, I tried to kind of make myself more of a role model for them. And I was the oldest in the unit at the time, being 17, and the next nearest to me was probably 8 years old. So I just, those were my friends, basically, them and the nurses, and just tried to make the most out of the situation. And I told myself from that point forward, I'm not going to let cancer define my life, and I'm not going to let it keep me from doing the things I want to do. And so from there, just really kind of changed my mindset, seeing these kids go through the same thing I was.
And then from there, it sounds like you kind of kept that community, with, whether it was the hospital or just the kind of, everyone battling cancer. That sounds like it's something else that's kind of been a, mainstay for you.
It's been, I've had so many people help me along my way that, wanted to be able to get back some way. And so about 2 years into my cancer journey, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society reached out to me about this Man Woman of the Year campaign, which was a 10-week fundraising program to raise money for pediatric cancer research. And so normally they ask like CEOs and politicians to be a part of this, and they're asking me. I'm like, what am I going to be able to do? Went to the meeting and they said, I asked them what's the most anyone's ever raised, and they said about like $400,000. So I was like, well, I'm going to set my goal at $500,000 and beat all these people. So I mean, being a little, I guess, unknowing of how hard it is to raise money, I thought I could reach out to social media and say, reach out to like 10 of your friends to donate $10, yeah, and blah, 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 to raise $500,000. And 3 weeks into that idea, we raised maybe like $1,000. So I realized that's not the right way to go with this. So growing up, my dad was a horse trainer, so we were very tight with the horse community. So I thought of this idea of warrior horses for warrior kids, where we'd ask horse owners to raise $1,000 to make their horse a warrior horse. And then we'd find a kid battling cancer in their area, and then we'd match them with the horse, and they get to go out to the barn. And, you know, horses are very therapeutic. So it'd be a way for them to escape what they're going through with their treatment. And so in the remaining 7 weeks, we raised $320,000. And then up to date, we've raised $500,000.
It's amazing. Was there a specific kind of community that your dad was a part of that made that possible? Or were you guys going like nationally, just trying to find anyone?
We went, I mean, just like aviation, the horse community is a national thing. I mean, it's a worldwide thing. And I see a lot of similarities between the horse community and the aviation community, and the fact that there's people from all different walks of life. They all just center around this one love, whether it be horses or flying. And they're all very willing to help out, you know, each other and others in need and share their passions. So it was a pretty easy transition for me to go from kind of the horse world to the aviation world.
And do you think, like, what is it about planes and horses that make them so like uniquely suited to do good with, beyond just the communities and the people involved? Like, is there something about the symbol or the kind of idea of flying or riding something?
I think, I mean, it goes back to, you know, in a sense, freedom and just, I don't know, maybe a little bit of confidence building. Because I mean, a lot of people are maybe afraid of these big horses that are.
Yeah, I'm definitely afraid of horses.
You know, but then when you really break it down and like get to know the horse, like, I mean, it's literally a member of the family, and they have like such a unique sense of like feeling what you feel. Yeah. And so the coolest thing, like when we were doing the warrior horse deal with bringing the kids out, you could see like the horse sense that there's something wrong, and they would lower their head and just be super still as the kids were, you know, petting. And first the kids would be a little scared, you know, they're like 5-6 years old, never seen a horse before. And as soon as that horse would put its head down, it's like they made this bond. Yeah. And so the same thing, I think, goes into aviation. I mean, a lot of people are afraid to fly. They don't understand the turbulence and stuff like that. And once you get into it, you realize it's not really scary once you understand why these things happen. Yeah. My favorite thing is like take people flying for the first time, because especially in a little airplane, it's a whole different sense of freedom that you're just going to wherever you want, whenever you want, and you get to see so much more of the world from, you know, 1,000 feet than you do from 36,000.
Was that more money than you probably realistically expected to raise?
Definitely. The program outgrew us, so that's when we decided to step away from the warrior horse idea. Yeah. And at the same time, that was just kind of an umbrella thing under the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So it wasn't our nonprofit, it was just our idea. So now that I'm in aviation, we started Warriors with Wings, which is kind of the same idea, but all centered around aviation. And now we have our own 501c3. And so now we're kind of taking steps to make sure that we outrun, rather than it outrunning us, because we want this to be something that goes on forever and can help kids who were in similar situations like me, who maybe didn't know that they wanted to fly, or they've always had this dream of flying, but then they have this big thing happen in their life, and be able to add some guidance and, you know, a way for them to experience aviation.
Was there something about that experience raising that money that taught you, you know, what are the important things in a charity to, you know, prioritize what things are not worth doing?
So I think The most important lesson that we learned is we have to be sure that we're ready for when people want to be a part of the program. We've seen that it could be successful, basically the model behind the nonprofit. So this time moving forward, we're getting all of our ducks in a row and having very clear pathways to how to donate and what that person who donates to make their plane a warrior plane is going to receive, or what the money is going to go towards. Because before we didn't really have to worry about all that. It all went to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and they did what they do with it, and it went towards pediatric cancer research. But what we want to do with the money is a couple different things. Is do like intro flights for these kids who are battling cancer, who have battled cancer, as a way to kind of give them an incentive to push through what they're going through with treatment. We also want to do like a scholarship program. So after they get to do this intro flight, if there's any of them that are just truly, this is what they want to do, like I did, be able to offer away some assistance. Because I mean, obviously there's a lot of money and bills that go into, for the family, helping fight through cancer. And then the last thing is we want to do like flight simulators in the hospitals, because I had my little flight simulator when I was going through treatment. And being in a children's hospital at 17, they're kind of more geared towards like younger, like 5-6-year-olds. They've got like the playroom, and there just wasn't anything for me to do. And so I think this is a good way to give the older kids in these situations something else to focus on that's healthy, rather than just, watching TV and stuff like that. And then long term, we're actually looking to maybe change the FAA's viewpoint on what they see as like an automatic denial, and just making it an easier pathway to go from having cancer to maybe getting your license. Because when I went through it, I had to fight with them for 8 months, and it's a little outdated. And I am happy to hear that my DP told me that there's been a couple cases similar to mine that they have gotten through because of my, what I went through and where I'm at now. But I would like to definitely make it a little easier in the future.
And do you think aviation was a better fit for that charity just because of the career opportunities?
I would say so. I mean, I think aviation, you don't have to be a pilot. There's a whole bunch of different things. I mean, you can work here at ForeFlight.
For sure.
You can be a mechanic. You can do a whole bunch of different things with aviation that I think just opening this door of, getting into the aviation community is what's most important.
A common thread I'm hearing between a lot of your answers is, community and mentorship. And beyond just being mentored by, Bob or some of the other people at the airport, what effect has being a mentor to people kind of going through the same experience you had?
Yeah. So I think the hardest thing with aviation is, knowing what to do. Like, there's so many people that say, I want to learn how to fly. And they might look up, they might find themselves in some flight school or something, but there's so many different pathways that you can go through to get your license. Because some of these flight schools, they want, $150,000 to start out. Right. And that's the only way some of these people think that you can become a pilot. But in reality, my goal from my experiences is to offer, I stumbled into what I think was a pretty good way to get all my ratings, which was buying this little 1946 Chief for 18 grand, basically, rather than throwing $150,000 up front to go do this flight school thing. I got to have my own little airplane and learn from people who, have a lot of experience flying those, and then got to take my friends up. And, I didn't know a lot when I bought the airplane. I knew nothing about fixing an airplane. But having that airport community there to help me when something broke, they could teach me how to fix it. And just over the past, 10 years, now I'm at the point where I've rebuilt an airplane. Yeah. So I think just, being able to mentor the next generation of pilots, that there's more than just one way to learn how to fly is super important.
Yeah. And be involved with aviation. Like you said earlier, I really, felt that point, because like you, I thought being a pilot is the only way to be engaged in aviation, but there's just so many careers and opportunities to be engaged, that showing that to people, that are deciding what they want to do with the rest of their
Yeah.
life is invaluable. So
Yeah, and just, I mean, if you go to Oshkosh, I mean,
yeah, it'll open your eyes.
see, it definitely will. And it's a little overwhelming the first time you go, but that's just, proof that not everyone in aviation is a pilot, and, you can be very happy in aviation in very many different aspects.
Yeah. I want to hear about the experience of taking, these children up for their first flight. Like, walk me through kind of for them what that's like, showing up to the airport. What are their expressions like? What's their emotions like? It just sounds like it's got to be an incredibly rewarding
Yeah,
experience.
so the first kind of Warriors with Wings event that we did at Montgomery Airport, and I had a couple of my other friends from the airport come out and bring their airplanes. So we had 6 different cool vintage tail draggers. We had like a 140, Pacer, Super Cub, Champ, and so we invited the kids that actually were going through treatment when I was 17. They were 5, 6 years old. Now they're 15, 16. So we invited all of them to come out. One of them, unfortunately, has relapsed, and he's still going through treatment. And so he especially was, having a more difficult time with, his life and what was going on. And so they all showed up, and they saw all these airplanes, and we told them, we're going to take you all up in each one. We'll do a little round robin thing. And the one kid who had relapsed, he got on the airplane with me, and I made sure to take him up first because I knew he, was not doing as well. And as soon as we got in the air, I mean, he couldn't stop smiling and laughing, and gave him the controls, and he was flying. Just we got on the ground and told me that I want to become a pilot, and just took me back to when I was in the hospital bed, and turned to my dad and told him I wanted to become a pilot. And even all the other kids, I mean, they loved it. They wanted to go again, and they're always asking to come back out. So that's the great thing about like the airport community is, so those friends of mine that made their planes Warrior planes, whenever they have available time, they take those kids up flying, and they go have a fun time. But it definitely, you could see the shift in their emotions from, not knowing what aviation is to experiencing it for the first time, just immediately being enamored with it.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique way to experience it as well.
It is.
I mean, it's one thing to, go on a commercial flight or, go up in a small jet or something,
Yeah.
but to be in like a vintage, super small, super like visceral experience.
Vintage or not, I mean, just any small little airplane.
Yeah.
It's a much different experience, as you know, than jumping in an airliner.
Are there any plans kind of in the immediate term for, any other ways to give back to, your charity beyond just taking kids on flight? You said the flight sim in the hospitals is one way, going back and mentoring, but are there any other plans that you have for Warriors with Wings?
So our biggest thing coming up, we're going to do a land-a-thon, we'll call it. So basically, I'm going to take Goldie, who's the face of Warriors with Wings. It's a 1954 Super Cub. And we're going to see how many landings, takeoff and landings, touch and goes we can do in an hour. It's got to be a full, crosswind, downwind base. Don't have to go to traffic pattern out. So
Okay.
that's the...
So a low level traffic pattern. Yeah.
So we're going to see how many... So basically, participants can donate, $2 per landing. And all that money is going to go towards hopefully funding a couple of these flight simulators to put in some of the local hospitals around San Diego, and then build off of there, as well as fund some of the scholarship opportunities. And then the other big way is for airplane owners to sign their airplane to be a Warrior plane. And they can go on the website, warriorswithwings.com. Just put in your information in there, and we'll send you more info on what it takes to make your plane a Warrior plane. And there'll be some incentives, like Bold Aviators. There's gonna be a special apparel that you can only get if you make your plane a Warrior plane, and maybe something with ForeFlight and a whole bunch of special stuff. And not only that, but the bigger thing is give this a possible kid going through cancer the opportunity of doing their first flight.
So I want to talk about your aircraft now. I think that's been, beyond just something to learn in and kind of develop yourself in aviation. It is kind of a symbol.
It is.
So your Chief Snoopy, as you named it, tell me what role that played in the charity.
Snoopy, being a tail dragger, gave me my first opportunity to get a job in aviation, which was being a banner tow pilot, which was in a 1954 Piper Super Cub out in New Jersey. So towed with that for about a year and a half, and a deal I always had with my boss was once he was ready to sell the airplane or sell the company, he would come to me first. And so 2.5 years ago, he said he was willing to sell the Super Cub. So I bought it from him. Thought it was just going to be, a simple repaint, and that was going to be it. But ended up being a total ground up rebuild. So I thought, what better, representation of the Warriors with Wings brand can there be than an airplane?
Yeah.
So we decided to make the Super Cub be Goldie, the Warrior airplane. And when we painted it, we made sure to do a gold cancer ribbon kind of going across the airplane onto the tail to represent pediatric cancer. And so it's also, Super Cubs are known for backcountry flying and stuff. And so to me, that just kind of symbolizes, the ultimate amount of freedom. You can go land wherever, go to these places that maybe no one else has been, and it just serves as a representation that anything's possible. Yeah. And so it's been a great way to kind of represent the Warriors with Wings brand that, you never need to give up. You can start from what you thought was going to be your pathway, which was repainting this airplane. So I ended up having to rebuild it from the ground up, coming out on the other end in a brighter light. I learned that, and I should have known this going into it, that whatever timeline you have on what you think it's going to be done, add like 3 or 4 times that. When I bought it, I thought we would just repaint it, redo the interior, make it look nice, and pulled up the floorboards, and the elevator cable was like half the braided cables were frayed off. So not ideal. And then pulled some of the other interior pieces, and the 2 door posts were completely corroded away, not even touching the frame. So we decided, let's just take it down to the bare bones and go from there. And so brought it all the way down to the frame. Luckily, the engine was pretty good. I had broken in the engine when I was towing banners for the company, so I was confident in that. And then, it was a lot of fun in the first, I'd say 3/4 of the project, kind of seeing how it all comes together. But once we got to the point where it looked like an airplane, I was like, we'll be flying this thing in 2 weeks. That's the part that
the
seemed
last
like
10%.
They say like the last 10%. It's 90% done,
right?
90% to go. And that's definitely true. It's hard not to feel like you want to rush to get it done because you're so excited to go fly it. So I think that was the hardest part, was just making myself slow down, making sure I do everything right. And it was definitely a great learning experience. And now I think the coolest thing is, if anything breaks, I kind of know where it could be, and because I know how it all goes together.
I want to hear more about the banner towing. What was that job like? What was your day-to-day like doing that?
That was the best job. If they would pay me what they pay me at the airlines to do banner towing, I'd still be doing that. The best part was just flying over the coast at 400 feet, dragging a banner for hours and hours, and just enjoying the views and stuff. The harder days was when it would get a little windy and you're sitting there. You come in and you drop the banner, and then you got this 40 by 90 foot sail just laying on the ground. You got to roll it up all by yourself. And I remember there would be a couple times I'd get it all the way rolled up, and then a big gust of wind would come out.
Unroll the whole thing.
And I'd be, why am I doing this job? But there was nothing more fun than, diving down, snagging the banner. It was an amazing job, and it taught me a lot. I mean, you learn to be really good at slow flight with that and get a really good feel of the airplane. And that's really translated well with, flying in any other airplane that I fly now.
So you were towing banners in what is now Goldie.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's been really cool to kind of see, there's these 2 airplanes that have had a big impact in my life, Snoopy and now Goldie. And so people ask me all the time, like, would you ever sell them? I'm like, those are going to the grave with me. Those are my forever airplanes.
What was it like trying to have, proper situational awareness, towing banners and in these planes that have, like you said, maybe less than functioning six pack?
Like when I was, my Chief didn't have any electrical, and the Super Cub, I think the only thing that really worked on that was the tachometer, and maybe that was it. That didn't have an attitude indicator, so all I had to really rely on for situational awareness was ForeFlight. And the most important thing is to look outside, obviously. But I think what's really cool that ForeFlight helped me with was I got to the point where, I could see all the airspace, then I could look outside and I could basically visualize the airspace lines when I'm looking outside, as well as just, also when you're towing a banner, your angle of attack is
Crazy. Yeah.
crazy high. Just trying to keep that banner up in the air so you truly can't see out in front of you. So having, the traffic stuff on ForeFlight through the Sentry, be able to see that, I'm normally a lot lower than everyone else, but sometimes you'd have, someone doing a nice scenic flight down the coast, but having stuff like that was, invaluable.
Yeah. So you definitely get used to the kind of workflow, whether it's ForeFlight or something else. And then, it's pretty interesting to go through the whole rebuild process of an airplane and make that front and center.
Yeah.
You don't see it super often unless you're, like you did, rebuilding a plane or
Sure.
rebuilding your whole panel.
Well, it's hard because, with these old panels, and there's just a lot of instruments that you honestly don't even need anymore. So when I was rebuilding my Super Cub, because I came from a place where before it didn't have anything that worked, I might have went a little overboard with some fancier avionics stuff in there and made it IFR capable just, as a safety standpoint. And it's going to be my airplane forever, so why not? But when I was designing the panel with Baker Avionics, who put it all together, I told him this iPad, one way or another, this mini iPad's got to be sitting right here so I can control it with my right hand so I can have ForeFlight. And we designed the entire panel around it, had to sacrifice some things to ensure we had the space for it. But that's all I use when I'm flying around. I'm putting in my flight plan, sending it over to the GPS, and I don't think I've ever touched the GPS. It's all been on ForeFlight and just send a panel.
Beyond just the panel, I want to hear more about the other decisions you made along the way of rebuilding this aircraft, everything from the paint to the interior. Like, what was that whole process of bringing it together like?
Yeah, so it was definitely pretty cool to kind of like start with the blank canvas.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted the Super Cub to be the face of Warriors with Wings, Goldie.
Sure.
So to be honest, the hardest part with the paint was finding a good gold. Okay. I probably spent $500 just trying to find the right colored gold, because like a true gold that you see on a plane, like, it might look okay in the sunlight, but then you get it in the shadow and
Right.
it looks like brown, like not very appealing. And so ended up going to the guys over at Polyfiber, and we created our own. If you want to buy it, it's called Special Cancer Gold.
Oh, wow.
It's a custom gold. And then I wanted to make this kind of the ultimate backcountry airplane. So we added pretty much every modification you could add to a Super Cub legally. Yeah. And I learned taking this 1954 airframe and adding all these things was not as easy as it sounded. And there was a lot of moments where I was debating if it was worth doing some of these things when I could probably had it flying a lot sooner, not doing it. But it's the best flying airplane I've flown now.
So between banner flying, your Chief, you're now in the Airlines, what is your favorite airplane to fly?
It's a hard question for me, because the Chief is what got me to where I am today for sure. But the Airlines, like, I fly the 737, and it's basically a big 182. It's cool to say that you can fly a jet and stuff, but nothing I think can compare to the Super Cub. Just having that ability to go literally anywhere. Earlier this year, a group of my friends went out to Moab, and we just bounced around the desert over there and landed in some pretty amazing spots. And just to be able to go do that in an airplane is, it seems like it shouldn't be allowed. Yeah. But that's the great thing about Moab. It's all Bureau of Land Management owned land, so we're legally allowed to land there. That's awesome. It was quite the experience. So I'd have to say the Super Cub. And
is there something you've taken away from each of these different aircraft that I'm sure they've all made you a better pilot in some way or another? But it's like to hear about each different aircraft, kind of what you learned from it.
Sure. So I think the Chief has taught me the most. When I first jumped in the Chief with my instructor, after going from the 172 to the Chief, I remember how just unstable and just, it was a lot touchier on the controls. And I thought, I'm never going to be able to learn how to fly this thing. And my instructor, Bob, said, if you can fly this airplane, you can fly any airplane. And I really think that's rung true till today, because there's just something about that Chief. It's just, it's got its own personality with like the oleo strut landing gear. You're truly never done. I mean, any tail wheel, you're never done flying it until it's in the hangar, chalked up, and you close up the hangar. But that thing being underpowered with 65 horsepower engine and just it being so light, I mean, any gust of wind you feel, and being underpowered, you really just have to be on top of it. You can't just jump off the ground like you can in a Super Cub or something with a bigger engine. So that really taught me, I think, my basic just stick and rudder skills. And then going to the Super Cub, towing the banners, just living on the edge of the stall all the time, I think that really built up a lot of feel. And I mean, now people ask me like, oh, what's the stall speed? I'm like, well, whenever it starts to shake, that's when you know it's about to stall.
You'll know it when you feel it, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that works pretty much in any airplane, and that's allowed me to jump into different airplanes, different tail draggers, and there's a POH, but all those POHs were built in 1946, and they don't tell you a lot. So just being able to jump in an airplane and kind of feel it out, I'm grateful that I had the Chief and the Super Cub for that. And then, the 737, that's taught me a lot more of how to be a more procedural pilot, I guess, fly more precise with instrument flying and things like that. But I think I would have had a much harder time kind of transitioning from, especially when I went to the regionals, flying the CRJ 200. I went from flying a 180 horsepower Super Cub to this twin engine jet. And if it wasn't for those basic stick and rudder skills, I think I would have had a lot harder time, transitioning in training.
We've talked a lot about your GA flying, the different aircraft you have, your different, experiences, but I want to hear more about your kind of transition from GA into flying professionally in the airlines.
Yeah. I mean, it's been, I think, a very unique pathway. I basically went from getting my sport license and doing most of my learning under a sport license until I could get my medical to, I quickly got my private, and since I already had the hours for a commercial rating, I skipped the instrument rating and just got my commercial, and then started looking for a job towing banners because I knew, having all that tailwheel time, that's what they fly mostly for banners. Did that for about a year and a half and got my time, and then got on with Air Wisconsin out in the Midwest and flew there for about 2 years, and then found myself somehow lucky enough to get on with Southwest Airlines, and it's been just the most amazing company to work for and fly for, and I honestly couldn't see myself being happy at any other airline but there.
How do you balance your charity, your flying, the rest of your personal life?
That's definitely a lot. The nice thing about some of my overnights and stuff, I can take some of that time to kind of focus on the charity work and kind of getting Warriors with Wings all put together. It's been a long time coming because before that, we were building the Super Cub to get that ready. So it's been a little slower process than I'd like, but that just goes back to me not wanting to run into the same mistake I ran in with the Warrior Horse thing, where it just outgrew us more than we could keep up with it. The only reason why I do the big airline flying is to pay for the little airplane flying. And I get captains all the time like, you're going to go fly? Like if I get like a San Diego overnight, I'll jump over to the airport and go fly my little airplane around after flying the big jet. And everything goes back to the roots of just GA flying and flying the little tail draggers around, and you find a way to make it all work.
Beyond the career opportunities, you've had because of aviation, what else about it has helped you grow professionally or maybe personally as well?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confidence building to kind of be found in aviation stuff. Going from someone who doesn't know how to fly an airplane to doing your first landing, I mean, that's a big boost of confidence. And then doing your first solo, and there's a lot of really cool milestones that you can hit, getting your first 1,500 hours, stuff like that. Being able to meet all these different people in aviation has made a lot of friends and a lot of professional connections as well. I mean, being here with you guys today, that's all stems from general aviation flying and airplanes, and it's just an amazing way to meet people.
So something else that you amongst all the other things participate in is STOL Competitions.
Yes.
So tell me how you got into that, maybe some cool memories or just something about the subculture of STOL that someone from the outside wouldn't know.
Sure. So when I was rebuilding the Super Cub for Warriors with Wings, I wanted to have as many outlets to kind of raising awareness to Warriors with Wings as I could. So I feel like STOL, a short takeoff and landing stuff, is a pretty growing part in aviation. And, they've got the STOL demo at Sun and Fun and at Oshkosh. So my goal is to get into one of those so I can really be in front of all these people and they can see Goldie the Warrior plane,
Yeah.
Competing with all these other guys. So this year was my first year competing in the national STOL circuit. We ended up getting second place nationally in our Cub class. And, going into it, I was a little nervous. Like, you watch these guys on YouTube, like there's Steve Henry, Dan Reynolds, like, those are like the top guys. And I just thought that me coming in with my Super Cub, like, I didn't know what to expect, But my first competition was in Ontario, Oregon. And I showed up and they were all just like anyone else in the aviation community, welcoming with open arms. And they really taught me a lot. And they were, they weren't scared to share their secrets on different techniques and different ways that allow them to land shorter and stuff. And so from my first competition to the last one over in Sulphur Springs, Texas for the National STOL Finals, definitely saw a huge improvement. And, it's just another great subpart of the aviation community that, like everyone else, just very welcoming.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about the aspect of STOL that it's kind of like the only spectator sport in aviation.
Yeah, pretty much.
And after seeing it for the first time at Osh, like I was kind of blown away by how great of a spectator sport it is.
Yeah.
And the aspect of it of kind of bringing awareness to your charity is a great idea.
It's been very cool to be a part of for sure. And I think a lot of people, I mean, I was nervous to go into it and I've got, a pretty good backcountry Super Cub. But I think what's really cool about the STOL community is they're really pushing for just, if you got a 172, there's a class for the 172s to come compete. There's a guy in a Piper, like Archer. I mean, he kills it. I mean,
there's some crazy aircraft out there.
It's pretty unbelievable how like capable, your normal flight school 172 is. And I'm not saying go rent, a 172 and start slamming on the brakes and put bald spots on it, but I definitely hope that more people get involved. Like, it's not about having the best airplane. It's just about going out and having fun.
Yeah, being a part of it.
And just being a part of it. Absolutely.
When you look back at the journey you've gone on so far, where do you kind of see the next immediate couple steps, whether that's with Warriors with Wings or your professional career?
So I think from here, our next big step is our big launch of Warriors with Wings. Been talking to Sun and Fun, and hopefully they'll be having Goldie as one of the demo planes for the STOL competition. So that's kind of the date that we're setting to kind of do our hard launch on Warriors with Wings for good. We'll have all of our ducks in a row and really be setting out to try and change lives for all these kids who have been going through hardships with cancer treatment and even post-cancer. I mean, there's a lot to be said for those who have gone through cancer and, they're still trying to find their stride in life after going through such a traumatic thing. So Warriors with Wings is definitely on the forefront of what we're going to be moving forward with.
That's awesome. And if there's, for anyone listening, what are some ways they can get involved with Warriors with Wings, whether that's sharing or ways to donate?
I mean, the biggest thing I think is just sharing what Warriors with Wings is, sharing the name. You can go on our website, warriorswithwings.com. On there, you can see all the different ways that you can be a part of it, ways you can donate. And the biggest thing for us is finding these warrior pilots, the kids who have been going through treatment or have gone through treatment. So if you know of anyone that's, been in that kind of situation, there's a spot for you to go on the website and give us their information so we can reach out to them, because we want to be able to get this for people who have been going through these kind of things. So with the hospital, like HIPAA laws, it's kind of hard to get the information out there and obtain patient, information, obviously. So the best way to spread it's just by word of mouth, or if you know someone. And that's the great thing about aviation is there's people in all different realms of, life. And so it's a great way to spread it.
Maybe secondary to that, for people that just want to bring, maybe more purpose to their flying or give back in some way, what are some other ways you think either you have given back in the past that, pilots could take to their
Sure.
flying?
I think just if you see someone hanging out at the airport, go talk to them, and that simple conversation could maybe change their life. It might give them a window into a world that they didn't know was possible. I always try and take people up flying whenever I can, just so they can experience it at least, and then whether that snowballs into them want to continue to do it or not. It's an easy thing to do, and always brings a smile to my face to take someone up for the first time.
What advice would you give to younger Ryan when he was starting out on this whole journey?
I think I would say to kind of enjoy the whole process a little bit more of time building and getting to where I am now of hopefully my forever airline. I think a lot of people kind of say the same thing. Everyone has like this big goal of, flying the jet in mind. And I'm lucky that I have my little airplanes to fly on the side, but there is something pretty special that I think you kind of gloss over when you're time building. I mean, there's a lot of firsts that I can't have again. I can't have my first solo, can't hit 1,500 hours, get my first airline or first flying job. Yeah. So, probably just tell myself, enjoy it. Cause there's definitely times I was complaining, which it's kind of what pilots do is
We're
whine
pretty
a
good
little
at that
bit.
stuff. Yeah.
It's our part of our profession, but it definitely is a special time to be time building. Just appreciate that.
Yeah. I think that's true for most people's careers. I definitely relate to that. You're always thinking about the next thing.
Yeah.
Okay, as soon as I get this done, then let's move on to the next thing. So it's important to look back and kind of appreciate and celebrate those moments while they're happening.
To be honest, it makes time go by a lot faster. It's crazy to me to think 10 years ago when I did my first flight, and you kind of forget a lot of those flights that have happened in between.
Sure.
That's why I keep my paper logbook and my digital ForeFlight logbook, so I can always go back and look.
So when you look at your whole arc, childhood, battling cancer, going through the FAA medical fight, your career, and now these charities that you've put together, is there something kind of guiding through all of that? Is it a relationship with your family, or is it a specific person that's kind of been there for you the whole way?
I mean, I think obviously in life there's different things that impact you. Early on, it was definitely family, and I was kind of more grown up. Like my teenage years, I was focused on, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. So school was like a big thing. And then when I got sick, obviously that changed everything completely. And then that just goes back again to family and support and friends. And from there, I started learning, aviation. And then that gets into a whole different community, which is the aviation community. So I think really in my life, it's just been having all these different people, there to help guide me and teach me different things. And through it all, family, and now just the aviation family. It all stems to that. And it's a very special thing to be part of.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming to visit us in Austin today. It's been a pleasure having you. I think we're all very inspired by your story, and look forward to all the places you're going to go.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.